Hi there, I'm Artsy Gamer 7, and welcome back to some more of the D&D Mansion speed build. And speed is a light term used for this build, in all honesty. I mean, I still speed up the video, so yes, it is still technically a speed build, but if you see the fact that this is number 23 episode of this build, then you know that it's not really a build that has gone by very fast, which was partially its intention. When I started this speed build, it was at a time where I really couldn't constantly work on different builds and just keep up with doing a different build every week or 2 builds every week. So I just wanted a build that I can sort of just chill with and work on and sort of take my time with, and also actually legitly just use all of my CC and be able to take the time to look through all CC and just go to town with it. So this is this build. Now this build is going to be featured in a little mini series that I'm going to sort of treat like a reality show, where I take all of my D&D characters from my creative sim that I've been having going on the channel, and I put them in this build and then see what happens. With the help of MCC, I'm going to be maximizing how many sims can be in a household. So that's how all of them are going to fit in here. And I have a few other mods that I hope are going to be adding to the chaos and seeing what ensues. And I won't really be doing much of the controlling other than here and there when I gotta lock them out of places, make sure the cat is fed. Those little simple things just to make sure those things are going through. Otherwise, I will not be controlling them. We will just be watching and see what they do and see what insane craziness they get into and see what happens. Hopefully, it's quite interesting. I have a lot of the stuff set up and ready to go for that series because this speed build is actually done. If you watched the last video, it was actually done by then. So I've even went around and did some semi-testing of the build to make sure things were functioning right. So we should be good to go once this starts. And man, this is for surely the last episode, at least of the speed build part. I am going to put up a screenshot video. I haven't decided if I'm going to talk during it or just let some music play. I'll figure that out when that time comes. And you can feel free to actually mention down in the comments below if you would rather just have some music with the screenshots, or if you'd like to hear me talking about maybe how I plan on doing the little mini series of all the D&D characters in, or just maybe just me rambling about random stuff as you watch the screenshots. Just let me know down in the comments below. I probably will purposely not post the speed build video on Saturdays because normally I do have them on Saturdays. I don't know what video I will put in its place. I might do a little vlog or something. I don't know yet. We'll just see. I do have one video planned that is a little extra video, but I haven't got around to being able to record it, and I don't know. I might have time to record it tomorrow or the next day, but there is going to be a second person in the video with me, so that's really going to depend on if they can also actually record with me. But anyway, so we'll just see how that goes. If I'm able to get that video recorded and edited in time, that might be the one that replaces the speed build for Saturday. Just giving you a little bit of time to be able to decide whether or not you would like music with the screenshots, or me talking about plans for the mini-series, or maybe me just having a conversation with you and sort of do a sort of update of what's going on in my life and just talking about some random stuff while you look at the screenshots. Just let me know down in the comments below, and then I will definitely take that into consideration because I definitely have no idea what I'm doing just yet. So I actually still got to take the screenshots also. But yeah, anyway, we are actually with the first room here, which is getting close to being done already, is Naria's room. So she is my alien. So obviously I have some alien-esque things going on, some space. Also, she's more into the darker tones, but I also like a lot of the alien vibe type stuff sort of has that neon look to it. And I like the neon with the dark colors. It definitely pops. I actually purposely went into live mode and slightly tweaked the lights for her room because originally they were like that bright light, white color. But I definitely wanted it to look a little bit darker in here and have almost like a purpley effect. So I did go in and edit her lights for her room to have more of those purples and blues. So it wasn't so bright in your face. It was more darker, like space, but also had sort of that purple color coming out in it. And I think it looked really, really cool in the room. It gives the room like a really nice effect. Definitely really like how her room turned out. I actually love it. It's probably one of my favorites. I don't know if it is my favorite, but it's definitely up there because I just think it's really fun and it's like sort of dark and sort of cool and like it's just fun. And it was just a lot of fun to do also, just to have some of those weirder objects or those more unique objects with the alien stuff going in, because obviously she's like, oh gosh, dropping things over here. She's my only like alien-esque character for my D&D people. So yeah, but it was a lot of fun doing her room and I enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about Naria's room down in the comments below. Would you like to stay in her room? Would you do your room anywhere remotely like hers or not? Like, let me know. But now we're next on to Helia, and I think I talked about it with Zahara. So Zahara is Helia's twin sister. If you didn't see their creative they actually just popped up on the channel not too long ago. So they're not that far back in the uploads, but also there is a link down below in the description for the Create a Sim playlist for my D&D characters. So you can go catch them there. They would be towards the very bottom of the playlist because they're not the last one, but they're like the second to last and the third to last character. So they're really far down there at the bottom. But they are twin sisters, and Helia is actually the one who's like more shy, more in the background, not so confrontational. You know, she just does her own thing in the back, doesn't try to draw attention to herself or anything. Versus Zahara is definitely the more talkative, the more confident one, the more in your face one, the more this is what I want. And I was super happy when I rolled the dice and Zahara was in front of Helia. Helia's pretty far back, but you can tell with the way her room is, it's not really that small. I mean, it's not huge like some of the other ones, but honestly, it's not really small. And the fact that she's one of the last people to get a room, you would think her room would be small. But my whole story with this is because, like, imagining this like a reality show, and that's how I was sort of doing this. These characters are getting to come in this building one by one and select their room. And I would imagine once Zahara realized that she got a number and she got to go in so much sooner than her sister, and there were so many people in between her and her sister, she would probably be a little concerned. But she's the crazy one, she's the confrontational one, she's the one who's like, I would get in your face if I have to. So I imagine she purposely picked her room where there was easily another room close to it, maybe even split off from people. And so she made sure that there was at least another open room close to her. And I imagine she just sit in that hallway leading to these two rooms and wouldn't let anyone in. Like, do whatever to just not let them by. Act crazy, act insane, whatever. Try to hand them a potion. Maybe even pretend to splash the potion out. Who knows? Something. Just to keep them away from this room so that once her sister got to get in, her sister got this room and got to be close to her. And that is my thought process on this whole situation. So like the whole time I had this in my head that this was sort of the story. So yeah, so that's why Helia's got a decent sized room. And also was able to have a room actually close to her sister because I really just imagined that her sister was a little insane. And I was like, no, my sister's getting this room and I will do whatever it takes to make sure that no one takes this room right beside mine. So if I have to switch on crazy mode, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, so Helia's got a decent sized room, and I will say I struggled a little bit more with Helia because one, I definitely wanted their rooms to have a slight similar vibe, but then at the same time, so like I gave them the same lighting and then like some of the same decorations. You could see have some familiar decorations and stuff. So like there's a few things here and there that sort of hint to being slightly similar or having slightly similar vibes. But I still wanted Helia to be distinct and be her own person and stand out from her sister Zahara, but the thing is with Helia, part of her character's story is that she's sort of trying to find herself. Like, she has her own personality and her own, like, distinct things, but they're not very strong yet, and they're not very super distinct, because she's still trying to find her path. She's not someone who started figuring herself out in her teen years, or even in her early 20s, because, like, they're, like, late 20s or early 30s, I think. They're actually sort of, they're definitely still young adults, but they're entering that stage in their life where they're not fully young adults. They're getting close to, like, what in Sims world would just be plain adult. So, yeah, they are a little bit older, but she still hasn't fully found herself. She's still a little bit more reserved, a little bit more not so sure, a little bit confused, trying to figure herself out. So there is somewhat of, like, what do I put in her room? How do I do her room? Because she's not really sure of her personal style yet either. So in some ways, there's certain parts of this room and some of the decorations that don't necessarily go together, or you wouldn't think would go together. Because partially, like, going through this stuff, I was like, yeah, she would probably like this. Yeah, she would probably like this. Maybe she would start finding an interest in this. Or maybe she grabbed this because it reminds her of her sister, or because she knows her sister likes it, so maybe it's something she thinks she would like. But in reality, maybe she doesn't actually like it because she's still figuring herself out. So her room in some ways was a little bit of a struggle because of that, because I was trying... She's a character who hasn't fully figured herself out, so it's like a little all over the place with things, and trying to give her some distinct definition, but also make it seem like, yeah, there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to decorating. Necessarily, not everything goes together, and not everything you would think would be put together. So yeah, that's sort of like what her room is. Trying to make it look nice and, like, you know, sort of put together, but not fully put together, because she's still figuring things out. I do ultimately like how it turned out. It's definitely interesting. There's some stuff that definitely probably don't necessarily go together. Like, obviously, when you come to decorating, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily go together, but it works. But in her case, some of it is a little off, but it's not so off that it's, like, off-putting or ugly. So I was pretty, in the end, happy with her room, even though hers was slightly more of a struggle comparatively, but I think that's just because technically where she is a D&D character, there is a potential for her to technically be played, or at least be like an NPC that's connected to a playable character who would grow over time. And where I purposely haven't made her personality too distinct just yet, because she's got to figure it out. I think that was part of the reason why her room was a little bit of a struggle. But it was an okay struggle. Like, I didn't mind it. Like, it was fun just sort of playing around and trying to piece stuff together and things. So it wasn't like it wasn't like Pyro's room. So yeah. But ultimately I was pretty happy with how they ended. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Helia's room. But now we are on to the next room, which is Fee. Fee is one of the she's like the third D&D character I ever came up with, and she's part of the group of D&D characters that I came up with very loose bases from the evolutions. Other than, like, Nita was my first character I ever made, which automatically she's an elf, because I really like elves, and something about, like, winter and snow themes I really like, so she's a snow elf. And her hair is one of my favorite colors. It's not my favorite color. It's like my second favorite color. Red's my favorite. Purple's my second favorite. So, you know. And she has a cat, well, technically a snow leopard companion, but, you know, cat companion. I love cats. So, Nita she was the first one, but she had a lot of just things that obviously were, like, super big likes for me. So, she was pretty easy to put together. But as I was getting more interested in D&D, I decided the next so many characters that I would sort of try to play with and come up with were going to be sort of loosely based off of the evolutions. If you go and watch some of those videos with the Create a Sim linked down below, you will hear me talk about that, and I'll actually mention which evolution they are in their videos and stuff like that. But this is Fee's room. Fee is a fairy. In my D&D setting for the character, she is technically she's not super tiny. Like, I didn't want to make her, like, legit tiny, like Tinkerbell, because as far as, if you was to take someone that tiny in a D&D setting, I feel like some things would be at so big of a disadvantage because you are so tiny that it potentially would be unfun because it was almost too much of a struggle. Of course, I guess it also just depends on the DM. But also, then there would be some things that I almost think would be too easy. But also just the fact of, like, communicating with your fellow players. I don't know. So I didn't want to make her too tiny. And my husband was sort of in agreement with me. Like, don't make her so tiny she's, like, Tinkerbell or even smaller. To where they're, or, like, Navi size. Like, don't make them that small. But make her definitely smaller than all the other races. So she is tiny. She is still very tiny, but, you know, if you could easily see her from slightly, like, you don't have to get really close up to know that it's a humanoid figure. You could tell that it is a humanoid figure from a distance, even though that she is tiny. But obviously in Sims World, she is normal size, because otherwise this room would be huge to her. But in Sims World, she is the same size as everyone else, therefore it is just an average size room. I actually did shrink this room. Some of the rooms I shrinked because I realized, like, they were a little bit bigger than I wanted them to be for some of the remaining last rooms. So I did shrink some of them towards the end here just to make it seem like, you know, these were the last rooms picked. But I had quite a bit of fun just fooling around with her room, trying to make it a little playful and little, like, cutesy and stuff like that, and having, like, these blues and pinks, because obviously she is loosely based off of Sylveon, who is the fairy type evolution, so obviously she had to be a fairy. So yeah, but just playing around with that, adding, like, little cutesy stuff, having, like, some of these little foresty things mixed in here, and, like, the mushrooms and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun with her room and decorating it and trying to make sure that I had little hints of blues here and there, that the pink wasn't so overwhelming. And honestly, I really realized with these last so many rooms, because obviously I've been building this over a long time, I really actually am super happy with the furniture that came from the high school years stuff. I haven't actually got to play the high school part, and I've already seen some bits of people playing the high school part. I haven't got to watch videos. Well, I didn't get to watch, like, much videos at all during, like, August and September such, so, like, I'm behind on a lot of creators' videos that I was keeping up with, which is saddening, but, you know, I'm gonna catch up eventually. Actually, with my current job, I'm about to have a decent amount of time off during the holiday season, so might have some time to catch up during then, but I'm not going to be used to that, because I used to work retail, and holiday season I worked more than I didn't work, so like, more than usual. I was going to be almost always up closer to 40 hours during the holidays, but now that I'm not in retail anymore, that's not so much the case, so it's definitely a change for me, but, you know, we'll go with the flow. But yeah, anyway. So I haven't got to play the high school part, but I already have seen certain things, and, like, I know as far as how many students are in, like, that show up in the room, like, in the high school, is sort of disappointing comparatively, because of it just seems like the school is not very live. But yeah, I also have MCC that changes things of how many people spawn in a lot, so I don't know if that affects the high school yet. I haven't played around with it, like I said. So, but yeah, I also remember seeing the high school and it being pretty bare, so I probably will eventually redo the high school, or at least download someone else's redone high school. But that's a different story. Anyway, Sophie's room was done. The little sort of cutesy fairy sort of vibes room. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on Fee's room. And now we're moving on to the next room. So obviously this video has more rooms in it than most of them do. Like I said, some of these last ones are smaller, so it doesn't take as long to decorate them. So it's quickening up. But we're actually to the last two. So this is the second to last bedroom. So we are getting close to the end here. And this is Lif's bedroom. So Lif is my weretiger, old man who is a alcoholic. definitely. But partially, a lot of his character comes from that trait, and he's not like, unless he's in tiger form, probably a little bit ragey, a little bit violent. But when he's in elderly man form, he's not violent when he drinks, so it's fine. But he definitely is like he constantly has a drink with him. If you watched his Kratos video, I talked about his like little staff club thing. It's his weapon, his cane, and also his flask, all in one. There's a little part at the top that holds his beverage of choice, and he has it with him at all times. So yeah, I just realized I don't have the door to this room shut, so I hope the echo is not worse than usual. But I only realized it because my cat went running up the stairs, and it sort of startled me because I was like, I shouldn't be hearing anything that loudly. But I do, because the door is open. But yeah, anyway. So, Lev is a simple man. So, I didn't try to do overly decorative things. I did put a few cats here and there, just to hint at the fact that he's a were-tiger. So, played around with that a little bit. But otherwise, he's just like, he's got a desk. He's got some tables to store some books. He's got some tables to store some alcohol. And he's got somewhere to put his clothes. He doesn't really care. I did give him this little water fountain because sort of his personal style, whatever. I imagine that he has some Asian descent somewhere. Obviously, in D&D world, it wouldn't be Asia unless your DM purposely made it based off of Earth. But you know what I'm saying. But yeah, as you can see, I went crazy with the bottles. They're everywhere. Everywhere. So, because I wanted to drive home, he doesn't drink much of anything else except for water, which I guess is good. You need water. In fact, I didn't used to drink water almost at all. I've been better about that, and I drink water more often. In fact, I probably drink water more than most of the other stuff, but still, probably still don't drink as much water as I'm supposed to, but I'm trying. But he at least drinks some water along with his other beverages, but he drinks more of them than he does the water, so well, every once in a while gotta have the hydration, and he at least knows that, so he does drink some water. But I wanted to drive home the fact that this is one of his key personalities, is that he constantly has a drink with him. So there's just bottles everywhere, and like if he's gonna have a day where he gets stuck in his room, he's gonna want to have options. So yeah, I just put them everywhere. He's supposed to be one of my sort of more comic-like characters, my comedic characters, I guess. I make a lot of serious characters, as my husband likes to say, edgy characters. So I do have a few that have silly parts, and even some of my edgy, quotation marks, edgy ones, I feel like have certain parts of them that have a little comedic flair to them, but my husband likes to mess with me a lot and say that I have a lot of edgy characters and that I like my edgy characters. And recently I purposely made a streak of characters. I think there's like 6 or 7 characters I made in a row. Like, obviously not in one sitting, but I purposely was like, the next so many characters that start popping up in my head, I'm purposely going to try to make them more silly and more comic-esque vibes to them. So I have a big bunch of them together who are not serious, edgy characters. So obviously those were not in this group, but they probably wouldn't be they wouldn't be created unless I did like a series 3, in all honesty, because they're that far back. But yeah, anyway, I purposely made them because he kept saying that. Anyway, we're on to the last room here, and we've actually gotten quite a bit ways through it. This is the character who I added in last minute, which is Azalea. She is the one that I'm hoping for surely causes some drama into this, because she broke someone's heart that is in this household, and I want to see what happens. I'm sorry, Ivor, if I am torturing you, but I just want to see if something happens. I want to see if the sim gods allow for dramaticness to happen. We'll just see. But anyway, this is Azalea's room. So Azalea is a wood elf, but she wears a lot of blues, and Her hair is like a rose goldy pink color. So her room is slightly similar, I will admit, to Fee's in a way, because she is a foresty sort of girl, but she's a lot more religious than Fee, but obviously that's a little hard to tell when it comes to rooms. But instead of having mostly pink in a room with the hints of blue, she has more blues with the hints of pink. So their rooms are opposite when it comes to that regard, but they do have a similar style. So if they seen each other's room, they probably would like start getting along, but I feel like when it starts coming to the personalities, Fee would be a little taken aback. Fee just really is not too worried about some of that stuff. She wants to have fun, she wants to be chill, she wants to have lovely conversation and listen to some good music. That's Fee. She's probably not really into the drama, so she may not like the things that I want to happen in this little mini series. I'm sorry, Fee. But anyway. Oh well. But yeah. So I did put a lot more flowers in here though, just to give her some of that nature vibe inside of there and give her that wood elf feel. Like, she's missing her home. Obviously, she would probably like some actual trees in there. Who knows? She might go and get Forsythia to help her put some actual plants in there, or more plants in there. Well, who knows? Anyway, so that is going to end this series, basically, other than the screenshots video. The house is done. Completely done. So I hope you've enjoyed this journey with me and getting this ginormous mansion built. Let me know your thoughts of the whole build down below. What are some of your favorite rooms? Love to hear from you. But anyway, I'm going to end this video here. Definitely hit that like button if you've enjoyed the process, like this build, and have liked the rooms that were in this particular section. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that screenshot video, as well as the mini-series that will be taking place in this build, so that you can see how that turns out. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, bye-bye!